Welcome. David Wick and I are so honored and delighted to welcome you to the second in the series of podcasts on the culture of peace. And in a moment, we're going to introduce Ambassador Chowdhury, who is credited among so many other things for establishing the Declaration and Program of Action for a Culture of Peace. And this is part 2, Ambassador. So we have an amazing part 1 where you touched on the history, the origins, and talked a little bit about the current status of the culture of peace. And so today we would invite you to speak whatever's on your mind and heart. And then, of course, for us to move into the future of the culture of peace. So we're so honored and delighted that you're here. So I'm Tezikiah Gabriel of Pathways to Peace. I am the executive director, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, David Wick, who is the president of Pathways to Peace. David?
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here and really honored to be here with Ambassador Chowdhury again, and Tezikiah, who's a dear companion, co-creator in peace building in many different ways with Pathways to Peace. And it is truly, this is an important conversation because it is also continuing to lay the foundation and look to the North Star of the culture of peace, which is really one of the key parts of humanity's future, of co-creating a culture of peace. And with Ambassador Chowdhury's great work at the United Nations, for example, here I'm in Ashland, Oregon, we created the Ashland Culture of Peace Commission, which is grounding his work and this work in a city, in a community. So it is a truly local, global initiative and focus that we have. So Tezikiah, would you like to introduce dear Ambassador Chowdhury?
I am honored. So Ambassador Chowdhury has a long history of amazing work and credits. So he has been a career diplomat, permanent representative of Bangladesh to the United Nations, president of the UN Security Council, president of UNICEF Executive Board, UN Under-Secretary General, Senior Special Advisor to the UN General Assembly President, and recipient of the Utah Peace Award, UNESCO Gandhi Gold Medal for Culture of Peace, Spirit of the UN Award, and University of Massachusetts Boston Chancellor's Medal for Global Leadership for Peace, 2018 Global Women's Peace Award, recipient of the inaugural Global Citizen Award by the Soka University of America, and 2021 Visionary Leadership Award presented by civil society organizations. His legacy and leadership in the service of global community are boldly imprinted in his pioneering initiatives. In March 2000, as the president of the Security Council, for the political and conceptual breakthrough leading to the groundbreaking UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women and peace and security, and in September 1999 for adoption of the landmark program on the culture of peace by the UN General Assembly. In March 2003, the Soka University of Tokyo, Japan, conferred to Ambassador Chowdhury an honorary doctorate for his work on women's issues, child rights, and culture of peace, as well as for the strengthening of the United Nations. In May 2012, he received a Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa degree from the St. Peter's University of New Jersey, United States. In May 2021, the University of La Verne, California, USA, conferred on him an honorary doctorate for his work on global peace and development. Ambassador Chowdhury is the founder of New York-based civil society coalition, the Global Movement for the Culture of Peace, GMCOP. And I wish to say also, Ambassador, that you are a longtime friend and colleague of Pathways to Peace. And whenever we come together with you, we have to raise the name of our beloved founder, Avon Madison, and to honor her for her work with you around the culture of peace and so much more. So we're just honored and delighted, and it is perfectly right for you to be our first guest on this series, podcast series on the culture of peace. So at this point, I'd like to just turn it over to you, and I'll give you the opportunity to speak whatever is on your mind and heart. And of course, we've given you some themes that we're interested in as well, but we don't want you to be limited by those. So where would you like to begin?
First of all, let me say I am very touched when you refer to Avon, our dear Avon Madison, a co-founder of the Pathways to Peace. And it is amazing how we sort of our paths crossed, how we became close to each other, how we started adoring each other, how we had respect for each other. And beautiful, I had mentioned earlier also that we had for 10 years annual high-level forum on the culture of peace. And the day before, every year, I got a call from Avon wishing me best of luck for tomorrow. So that was amazing that she kept track. Sometimes it is very difficult for her. It was difficult for her to write an email or something, but she will call. She will call invariably, and then we will talk about. And another thing, Avon used to also call me on my birthday. It was very, very kind of her. So I dedicate our joint effort, three of us are together now, this podcast to the memory of Avon Madison, a great peace activist and a superb human being. I thought that I would like to share firstly two areas where I think culture of peace will have a big potential. And the two areas are, one, empowering women, and the second is how to, provide the opportunity to children to grow up as nonviolent, peaceful individuals. So these are I believe that, well, of course, I will come to men later on with regard to women again. I believe that if at all, and when, and so far we have seen the culture of peace has women in the forefront, leading the charge, bringing in the passion, bringing in the commitment and dedication for culture of peace. And I think we have seen it not only in our context at the UN forums, but we have seen it outside also. I first perceived it when I was in the Security Council representing my country, Bangladesh, and we had traveled extensively West African countries because I was the chairman of the Security Council Committee on Sierra Leone. So that took us there, and in pursuing peace process in Sierra Leone, we had to engage Liberia, Guinea, Nigeria, all these countries together. And in Sierra Leone, I have seen that women have really wonderful engagement in promoting the culture of peace. Whether you call it culture of peace or just peace, but they brought out the essence of the culture of peace, meaning they had peace and non-violence as a primary focus in their activities, life. There was also a big involvement of women in the whole of West Africa to promote the peace. And as you know, our good friend Lema Bowie of Liberia and also Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia both got included in the three-person Nobel Peace Prize in 2011. And that also will bring me the connection that I'm trying to establish between women and promoting the culture of peace. Because women, whenever they are doing anything for the good of humanity, they have a longer term vision. They see this as not only for the present generation, but also for the children and the grandchildren. They are about to inherit this world. And that is the thing that I saw personally in Sierra Leone and partly in Liberia. But Sierra Leone more, because I had engaged with Sierra Leone for at least 2 years of the Security Council. And I believe that there, when men were fighting in the bushes, the women were taking care of the society. As I said before, many times, that they put the food on the table, they put the children in the school, they took care of the elderly and the disabled, and they also saw to it that the community works properly for the people living in there. So that is a big thing, and that inspired me subsequently to enhance the role of women and recognizing the role of women through the Security Council initiative for Resolution 1325. I believe that though it started during my presidency in March 2000, because of the strong objection of the permanent members of the UN Security Council, it was not possible to get the resolution at that time in March. But we had to work for 8 more months to get the resolution in October, the last day of October in 2000, 31st of October, when Namibia was in charge of the Security Council presidency. I believe that this recognition of women, women's role and contribution to peace and security has contributed in a huge manner to promoting the culture of peace. Because the culture of peace, taking a cue from the Beijing Women's Conference, incorporated women's role. Equality between women and men is goal, area of action number 4 in the Culture of Peace program of action. And I must get this out to show you. And so this is the number 4 has very wonderfully connected with the role of women and in peace and security. So this is an overlap between the Culture of Peace and the Security Council resolution. And one big positive step towards the Culture of Peace is that Security Council resolutions are mandatory for every member state to accept and also to comply with. So that is this is Article 25 of the UN Charter. The UN Charter in Article 25, it has that clear language to say that we must do this. Let me read it out so that we understand that very clearly. Article 25, the members of the United Nations agree to accept and carry out the decisions of the Security Council in accordance with the present charter. So that it is very direct and very strongly affirmative that what should be done. So when women's role has been recognized through a Security Council resolution, it has much stronger mandate. So that is how I believe that the equality between women and men and 1325 have brought in a big way this women's energy and determination throughout the world. Now I find whenever I go, I just have to mention that, do you know about 1325? Immediately a roar of voice will come out. Yes, we know. Yes, we know. And thank you for that. So this is a wonderful thing, and I believe that the soon after 1325 was adopted in 2000, in 2011, the 3 women were given the Nobel Peace Prize, Lema and Ellen, and also Tawakkul Karman of Yemen. She was the other 2 persons were from Liberia. She was from Yemen. But the most important thing there is that it refers to Security Council Resolution 1325. In Nobel citation, it has said that this resolution has given the prominence and the role that they have been performing for years. But nobody has recognized that, particularly the Security Council. Security Council always considered women as a victim of conflict, victim of refugee situation, victim of rape, victim of hunger, everything. The women are mentioned in that context. But nobody recognizes, at least in its 55 years of history, Security Council never recognized women's role and contribution to peace and security. And I think in a way, as they have continued to to follow that path of peace, pathways to peace, path of peace, they have continued to maintain their steadfast support. I would say that men actually take peace as a part of their politics, not as a part of way of living, part of ensuring that our children and grandchildren grow up in a proper context and become the productive citizens of the world. So this is, I think, it's a wonderful recognition by the Nobel Committee, and the citation mentions 1325 in a big way. And I would like to bring in that context the role, what we call mobilizing men to implement 1325. Because it is men who are the perpetrators of all kinds of negativity, and particularly regarding peace and security. So that is why I believe that unless men are mobilized properly, the challenges will continue. The world will rarely see any peaceful time. And these current days, we are seeing that again and again. How violent we have become, how ruthless we have become, how indifferent we have become to the global public opinion. No, I have the force and I have the powerful countries behind me. I don't care anything. And I think this is, in the UN context, this is happening for the first time since the creation of the United Nations, where a country has defied the United Nations like anything. So that is why in 2012 we launched a program called Mobilizing Men for Women, Peace and Security. And I think it is very necessary. It is important in our families, particularly, to start with not only empowering girls, but also empowering boys to be mindful of their role in the global community. That is why they should be told that your sort of effectiveness is not seen in how you bully other people, but your effectiveness will be seen how you are respectful to everybody, including women particularly, and how you can ensure that your contribution joins with the contribution of women to make the world peaceful. So that has been our effort. Myself and few other colleagues have been working on mobilizing men. And last week, I think, in Georgetown Institute, there was a forum where people were talking about how to mobilize men. And the Japanese foreign minister came, interestingly, a woman in Japan, and we are very proud of her initiative in this regard. And also she has recently been mobilizing with the G7 countries about the Israeli war and how to bring at least a cessation of hostilities and ceasefire, and so that innocent civilians are saved, and children in particular, children and women. So that is my segue to promoting the culture of peace, but mainly encouraging having giving the best opportunity or recognizing women's special role in promoting the culture of peace. I think I say again and again that without women's direct and empowered involvement, culture of peace will make no headway. So that is a reality that we have to understand. They are the centerpiece of any global movement for the culture of peace. And the other point that I wanted to bring in is how we can facilitate our coming generations to become peaceful and non-violent in their behavior, in their living style, in their workplace, in their life as a whole, and in their families. So I believe that there is a window of opportunity if we start with the early childhood development. We promote the children from the family, sort of nurtured by the parents, and then go to the educational institutions, schools, where the teachers will advance, and then, of course, we come to the community. And Mr. Wick mentioned about how the local to global can be. I believe that the community is very important in that context. I'll come to that, but here I believe the children grow up in an environment they see. So if we as parents can take the minimum role of telling them about value of peacefulness, value of nonviolence, tell them to respect each other, tell them to be courteous and nice to each other, tell them not to be aggressive in their behavior. So all these simple things will give them a strength and confidence that, yes, these are good things, because they sometimes go and there is a peer pressure on them to behave unruly way or in an aggressive way. So that is what, and also be prejudicial and discriminating. So these are the important things that we can tell the children. And I am sure if they hear from their family, not only parents, but an extended family, grandparents, grandmas, they have big role, and even uncles and nieces and nephews, everybody can promote and give them. And I say sometimes to my students, they ask that how about how to promote culture of peace. And I said, there are two-step process. One is to make you a believer. Are you a true believer in peace and non-violence? And if you are, have you sort of comprehended your role as you grow up, as you take professional responsibilities, and if it happens that you have been put in a decision-making role or a leadership role, what do you do? And I say that if you do that, and if you can make another person a believer like yourself, your role is done. I believe that each one of us need to convey to other people that I have believed in culture of peace, and I would like you to also believe. And it can be friends, siblings, even parents. I say, your parents, when they grew up, there was no culture of peace. We didn't talk about it. There was a need for peace, but the culture of peace has its own dimension, that it starts with myself. So that is, it is not a street protest or waving placards and flags. That is important to bring a visual dimension to our passion. But at the same time, we have to say, am I peaceful? Am I non-violent in the real sense? Do I respect people? Do I have any prejudice against any group of people or any country? So these are the important things that we have to tell our children. So it's a long haul. I have been saying that if UN was lucky enough to start in 1945 with the culture of peace also, maybe we would have been in a better place now. We need a critical mass of people in each country, each area of the world, who are believers in the culture of peace. That is very important. So it is easier said, as I am telling you, but difficult to do it. And it needs a longer time frame. It's not today, tomorrow, or in decades. So if you ask me, what would you like to see as your vision for the culture of peace? I would say very quickly that I wish my children and grandchildren will be still talking about the culture of peace. They will try to promote it as much as possible, as I am doing now. So this efforts continues. There is, as a matter of fact, for culture of peace, it is an eternal endeavor. There is no end to it, because challenges to peace keep on coming. So today, we resolve one area of conflict and difficulty, but tomorrow we find another area emerging. I mean, think of it, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we were not faced with the challenge of climate change or these regional wars going on. Now it's, yes, there were wars among countries, but the existential challenge from climate change was not there, because we did not really predict it. And of course, the scientists were talking about it, but there were other people who were also talking against it. So this is the thing that I believe the culture of peace needs to, the advocates for culture of peace needs to keep in mind. As I say, it is not a quick fix. It is not a revolution. It is a movement, and it has to continue forever. I think even if we think of some of the positive things that the United Nations have done, like the Human Rights Declaration, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It was adopted in 1948. But now we are observing 75th anniversary of that wonderful document. But the condition of human rights in the world is in a very difficult situation. So UN was established 78 years ago. Still, it is sort of trying to find this way. So culture of peace is in the same categories. We should be patient. We should continue our efforts. I think the smaller or bigger doesn't matter. Successful or not successful matter. I would like culture of peace to quietly permeating into the minds of people is much better than flag hoisting, doing a gala event to promote culture of peace. I think that is not what we need to. So that is a simple thing, that simplicity of approach and simplicity of trying to find what will make it stay longer than we have thought of. And there I come with the point that Mr. Wick was mentioned about the local level initiative. At the Mayors for Peace 40th anniversary event, because mayors are sort of a community initiative. Mayors live with the community, work for the community, and is inspired by the community. So that is why there I launched another area of focus by the global movement for the culture of peace, which is community-based action for culture of peace. And I said that this is actually, I went to Ashland in 2019, invited by Mr. Wick as a part of the Ashland Commission for Culture of Peace. And there I was amazed by seeing the beauty of community coming together, all aspects of community leadership, all strata of leadership came in together. And they were all energized and impressed and enthusiastic about a global decision by the United Nations with the Declaration and Program of Action on the Culture of Peace. So this is a wonderful connection of local enthusiasm for a global initiative. And that made me really a firm believer in community's role in promoting the culture of peace. And I wish that Ashland example, Ashland model is taken up by other countries. And as you saw in my speech, which I later on sent you after our last podcast, that I mentioned Ashland in my lecture to the mayors in Hiroshima, and I believe that many of them, and again, women mayors were really, really focused on that. So that is what I would like to say, that focus on women, focus on children, focus on community support, and also have a longer term time frame in your mind, because it will not happen tomorrow, day after tomorrow, even next decade. But we have to start somewhere. Many things. Mahatma Gandhi preached about nonviolence. We are still struggling with nonviolence. But he encouraged Martin Luther King. He encouraged Nelson Mandela. Things have happened, but still challenges are there. So this is the fate or life of the culture of peace. I believe that we have to continue our efforts. It's like nourishment we get on a daily basis to live or to be active or to do good things. So culture of peace is also like that. So that is what I believe, that we should not connect it to some going into Gaza and settle the peace process there, or going to Ukraine or things like that. It has to be coming from within, from their own hearts. So we want a big critical mass of people in Israel or in Russia or in other conflict encouraging countries to feel that they will say, no way, we should not choose that path. We choose the path of dialogue, reconciliation, mediation. We should do that. So that is what I believe in the current context, and in the general context, we should talk about that. And while talking about women, I have also to share with you my thinking. This is my I want this to be superimposed on the culture of peace concept, and that is the concept or philosophy of feminism. I believe that feminism, as I mentioned, that women have a big role on the culture of peace, but feminism as a philosophy, as a way of life, is absolutely essential. I think feminism will bring greater good to the world and humanity as a whole. And that is very important because feminism automatically is inclusive, because we are talking about men and women doing together. So that is one thing. And the secondly, when it sort of promotes women's equality and empowerment, it does not leave anybody behind. So that is important. So we are now nearly 51% of women in this world. So if men think that they can do everything without the women, they are not utilizing the talent and the capacity and the energy of 51% of humanity. It's unbelievable how narrowly focused we can be. So that is why I believe that this inclusion of women through feminist policies will automatically make the world inclusive. And so the women and girls, men and boys will come together in that way. So that is what I believe. And then I remember with great fondness our dear friend Margot Wallström, who was, as the foreign minister, she was our colleague in the UN as Under Secretary General for Violence against violence and armed conflict. And she became foreign minister of Sweden and has the distinction of making the world's first feminist foreign policy. And now, of course, Canada has done that, and few other countries are planning to do that. But that was a wonderful initiative by her, and I believe that this is something we need to integrate in our work for the United Nations. And it is very important that feminism should be taken out of its association with old sort of movement that was known as feminist. But now world has changed. We have a better perspective of feminism and how feminism can make the world a better place is necessary. So I believe that whenever I speak about culture of peace, I bring in 1325, which is a very integral part of culture of peace, and then I bring in feminism. And I proudly announce that I am very proud to be a feminist myself. And I believe all of us need to be. That is how we can make the world a better place. And that is very important. And I would like the UN leadership also tell that they are feminists, and also they would like to pursue in their work feminist attitude or concept or policies. This is very important. And I have to see how many Under Secretary General of the UN have said that. Secretary General have started saying, I have this sort of not change of perspective, an additional perspective in my work for the culture of peace, and 1325 being an advocate for feminism myself. And that was, I started talking that I'm proud to be a feminist from, I think, 2010, from them. And then in, I think, 2018 or 19, Secretary General Guterres himself said that he is proud to be a feminist, almost the way I mentioned. And I am very happy that he has done that. But I am yet to see even the leader of UN Women have not yet said that I am a feminist, the past or the present. I think it is necessary. Otherwise, if they don't say, people will say, you are saying only in your context, but how about the UN as a policy-making organization? I know there are strong objectors to it, but strong objection to peace is also there. So we have to be ourselves determined to say, yes, we speak about good things, we promote good things, and if there are people who do not believe in these things, it is their issue, not mine. I will continue to speak up for the right thing. So that is a very important strength of mind we need in the UN. Yes, I believe that UN is an intergovernmental body. They are sort of mandated by the General Assembly or the Security Council, but nobody chastises you for saying, I am a feminist. That will not happen. And more so when the leadership of the UN Secretary General himself has said that. Why not all the other under Secretaries General should say that? I think at least we need, all heads of department need to say this, because their work involves feminism, women's empowerment, and inclusion. So that is very, very important. So this is again another area I would like to say, and you have seen that my recent article brought in some recommendations which we have to do. I mean, yes, I know maybe abolishing the veto power will be difficult now, but I will keep on talking about this, and more of us talk about this. It will be at least, who knew that League of Nations will fail, and then UN will emerge out of the failure of the League of Nations. But then we have reached a point where we have seen the helplessness of the United Nations and how to come out of that. Many people think that UN would go down like the League of Nations, and then maybe a new organization will come up, which will be more equitable, more democratic, and will give the mandate and power to the leadership to continue to invoke the UN's sort of role in, or I think we should continue with the name United Nations, because that is important. So, but I am not going that far. I am saying that good sense should dawn on us, including 5 permanent members, to say that we have to change this. We feel very powerful about that, but our power is negated by another veto-giving country. So you keep on fighting with your veto powers. In the process, the world suffers. Why not? Why not all of you willingly, like laying down your arms of veto? You should say that, yes, we understand that our veto is negating each other, like having nuclear bombs. If you, there is now a system that before another nuclear power starts the missile, we have the way to detect it and destroy it in the sky. But not always, not always. Who pushes the button first is the danger. So here, who gives the veto to what? You give it a veto on Ukraine by one country, one veto power, and you give Israel's aggression, you give another power. So we are taking away the objectives or potential for peaceful negotiations, or peace coming to the regions is not happening. So I still believe that that is necessary, and also I believe that tells me that it's high time for the UN, after appointing 9 men as Secretary General, it is high time a woman should. Yes, let's try. I mean, it's not that I can write down that a woman Secretary General will solve all the problems. No, but in the name of equality, we have to do that. I sometimes I say that we should have next 9 Secretary General as women. That way we can have an equality. But, because UN Charter is the first international treaty which treats equality between women and men as necessary in terms of appointment of its people. So Secretary General is also appointed by according to the Charter. And why that should not open up for women? So that is my point. And we are thinking, some of us are thinking of again starting a movement to have a woman Secretary General.
So, Ambassador Chowdhury,
tell me.
if I may ask, and so certainly the many things that you're suggesting are critical, are very important. The changes and the new directions and new possibilities. And I'm just wondering, in your experience at the UN for all these years, because mindset is the key change that must happen, is how people think, their own consciousness, and then decisions are made from that point. I'm just wondering, what have you experienced that really has an impact, that really helps change people's minds on situations?
Yes, leadership again. I have worked with Kofi Annan as ambassador and as his Under Secretary General. I think two things, Mr. Wick. I think UN is a very complex organization, very complex, and more so as an intergovernmental organization. It has huge sort of grouping and mindsets about various things. Like I say, if you tell about feminism in the UN General Assembly and say that we want to include this in a resolution, there will be hue and cry. At least some countries will be very, very strongly against it. But what I want to say to your question, that leadership is very important, and leadership which knows the organization very well. Because nobody knew UN like Kofi Annan. He rose from the bottommost level to the highest level. He was a P1 when he joined the UN system. And from there, he goes all the way up to become the Secretary General. And he knew the United Nations thoroughly. Thoroughly. You have to, I mean, I find that all the subsequent Secretaries General, or in the past, of course, Dag Hammarskjöld and people like Uthan brought in a spirituality dimension in the work of the UN. They were motivated by their passion for peace and conflict resolution. But now UN bureaucracy has become so strong and so pervasive and so much bent on their own self-seeking objectives that it is very difficult for any Secretary General to perform, because the bureaucracy or the permanent people will continue to sort of steer the thing in the way it helps them. And it has all dimensions of personal motivations in many ways. So that is why I believe that, again, I have not seen, because UN leadership also changes. You come for 5 years, Secretary General comes for 10 years, but all the USGs change. So the moment they change, everything is gone. And there is no institutional motivation, because it's what I'm saying about the personally, if we can bring in some change of mindset, you can do that. But unless the intergovernmental decision making makes those changes, you have nothing to do. People will complain that where did you get the mandate of saying what do you say? And same thing I found in terms of my own work about civil society's role, about the culture of peace and all these things. I find that I am reminded again and again that it is not your mandate. Your mandate is look after the most vulnerable countries of the world. But I kept on doing that. And I think it was the people felt that asking me to stop that maybe will bring more problem than allowing me to do that. But I believe that it is very necessary for the UN leadership. Leadership, I would say, the Secretary General, the Deputy Secretary General, and all Under Secretary General should be considered as, we form the, sorry, I said we, I mean, they form the, what we call the senior management team. So that team meets every week. I think when I was there, we used to meet on Wednesday under Kofi Annan. And he would attend every meeting. There we will see the perspective of the UN, how UN should behave, how UN should take decisions, and all these things, in addition to daily problems or issues. But that is very necessary, that this management team has to be. Secretary General Guterres has done one thing, that he has, at least gender equality has been reached in the management team, 50-50. But does that mean that this equality of gender has pervaded the United Nations? No. Many of the men USGs do not believe in women's equality in the true sense. But they do their work as they feel appropriate. But it has to be everywhere. People have to ensure, whenever you go or whenever there is a discussion, you should ask, is there a woman participant contributing to the decision making? Yeah, are all women I see, but all of them are keeping quiet. Or all of them are such junior level people that they do not need to speak up. Their bosses are all men. So this is something that we need to ensure. So that is very necessary. But again, mindset change, I will say no. People keep on changing, and there is no institutional effort to change the mindset. And that for 10 years of Kofi Annan, at least I was confident that he will know the root cause of the problem or issue, and he will handle it in the best possible way. We will receive his guidance and instructions, and we'll keep on doing, and which he did in a remarkable way. But that is there. I will bring in another point, that the current UN structure or way of working in an intergovernmental fashion has to change. We have to bring in civil society as a partner. Otherwise, UN is living in its own cocoon, in own bubble, as they say. Otherwise, you have to bring in civil society. They are the working at the grassroots level. They are bringing in the perspective of the communities. They are bringing in the perspective of the field level experience. So that without that, and I said in my article that in the 78th UNGA session, there should be a real civil society focused resolution giving them a role. I had said in 2000 that civil society should have a seat in all the boards or institutions of the United Nations. Let them not vote, but let them sit there and be given an opportunity to speak out on behalf of the civil society groups which work on disarmament, development, human rights, peace. So let them speak as one voice of civil society. Or maybe if they decide to share it, that I have this perspective, but there is another perspective, you can share the time between two of you. So this way, civil society should be involved in the work of the United Nations. Secretary General has all the town hall meetings, or PGA has all the town hall meetings, but do they, after the town hall meetings, do they take into account any of the recommendations of civil society? No. Their notes do not say anything. Their notes do not want this to be said or included as a record even. So that is how it is. Civil society is being shunned by, like anything, by the United Nations. And that's a very sad reflection on the leadership. Leadership should be including civil society. They should welcome and say, they can, the Secretary General or Deputy Secretary General can say, yes, I spoke to the civil society, they had these suggestions. And I believe there is a merit in that suggestion. And ask the report writers to include that, or speech writers to include that in their speeches. This is how it should be. I mean, leadership does not mean that I have to listen to only P5 and do nothing. That is not leadership. So this is again another thing, because culture of peace, the path of the culture of peace is intimately connected with the path of the United Nations, because it is an UN declaration and program of action. And there I would say that in a beautiful way, the culture of peace document, program of action and declaration has merged the role of various actors. And we talk about civil society, of course, and then the member states. Member states are coming out in a better way, at least I should say, through the high-level forum. Every year they come and speak, they involved, and they get connected with civil society in the afternoon. In the morning is their part, and that is in one-day affair. But this was stopped and disrupted this year in 2023 because of, I think, inability for the PGA's office and the inability of the initiating countries' leadership. I mean, Bangladesh has been the promoter of the culture of peace from the time I wrote to the Secretary General in 1997 to create an agenda item on the culture of peace, self-standing and everything. So that is why I believe, and we have been able to bring great thinkers to share their thoughts with the high-level forum events. And I have all my respect and gratitude to Federico Mayor, the former Director General of UNESCO. He is the stalwart. He is the pillar of strength for the culture of peace movement. And for me in particular, as a friend and as a colleague and as a co-activist, I think Federico Mayor is an asset to the world. And I believe that it is very important that we could get him for all 10 years to speak, all the high-level forum. He started as the keynote speaker. He and Cora Weiss, we selected them to do that in 2014. No, 2012, sorry, 2012, and from that up to 2022. He did it for 10 years, either in person or online. But this year, he couldn't come because there was no civil society forum in the afternoon. So it was done in a truncated way. So that is not correct. That is, we want civil society and governments to be together, to get inspired by from each other. Yes, Mr. Wick.
I have a question along that line in terms of civil society engaging all the more in the culture of peace. And I'm interested in your perspective because there's a whole lot of focus on the Sustainable Development Goals. The 17, and there's a lot of different entities in civil society who are looking to that. But it seems to me that the culture of peace and the 8 action areas was part of the foundation of moving to the Millennium Development Goals and the Sustainable Development Goals. So I'm just wondering about how you see that evolution or the role culture of peace has in bringing us to the Sustainable Development Goals we have now.
Well, I do not know whether you have heard me say these things, but for the Sustainable Development Goal, for Goal 16, civil society and some countries promoted inclusion of the culture of peace. That it talks about inclusive society and all these things. And it is a goal devoted to peace. But there was so much of strong opposition from the industrialized countries, European Union and other industrialized countries like USA, Japan and others didn't say anything about it. And they started bringing in the governance dimension, the corruption and all these things. And developing countries say, no way, we cannot. So at one point, Group of 77 said, we do not want to put in culture of peace, or we don't want the donor countries or industrialized countries to put focus only on governance issues, human rights issues, corruption-related issues as part of the Goal 16. So finally, they balanced their position. The developing countries said, okay, developing countries at one point was even proposing withdrawal of Goal 16 altogether. They say that we don't need Sustainable Development Goal, doesn't need Goal 16. So these are the big intergovernmental fighting going on. And then and Group of 77, because of a bigger fight with the industrialized countries, they were sort of, they say culture of peace is not important now. The bigger fight is more important, whether it is governance, human rights, or peace and inclusive society as a whole. So then what we could do to save the culture of peace was to go to Goal 4, which is on education. And Goal 4.7 identifies the areas which should be focusing on promoting education. And they said every part of society should be learning about the culture of peace and nonviolence, women's equality, global citizenship, and human rights, and many things. So they particularly mention these things.
So, Ambassador Chowdhury, this has been just incredible. You've given us so much incredible information. We just cannot thank you enough for being here with us. And so before we close, I'd like to just ask if there's anything else you'd like to share with us that you haven't yet had an opportunity to share.
Well, I should say that I keep on speaking, keep on writing. So many of the things are the same thing. I believe that as an advocate for the culture of peace, advocate for women's equality, I believe that these are the areas where we need a longer term perspective. So I have no problem in repeating myself, because I need to make people listen to me, believe in me, follow up on these things. So I'm not shy of repeating myself, even quoting myself. Sometimes in my writings, I say, if my message is the same through same language, I have no need to change, because I am not a politician that I'm changing my language. I believe in one language and I keep on hammering that, telling people that this is understand. But one message that I want to sort of leave with this podcast, and Tezikiah, you and Mr. Wick, and this way to a bigger civil society, bigger supporters of the culture of peace, that we have to be patient. We have to continue our efforts, but that we should not give up so easily. Oh, there's nothing happens. If there's this English word called rolling stone gathers no moss. So if we are rolling from one to the other, there is no future for the culture of peace. When we become a co-activist for culture of peace, we should tell ourselves it's a long haul. Let's be determined to pursue. And it doesn't matter that whether I leave or our colleagues leave or not, the movement will continue. The culture of peace will be there forever. And we would understand. I am a strong believer in my faith for culture of peace in such a way that I believe at one point people will start appreciating its value. Maybe people still find it as something outside the mainstream of public people's work or UN's work, multilateral work, but I believe they will understand. As we have done that with many other things, it takes time for a good thing to settle down. Bad thing people pick up quickly, but good things, it takes time. So I would say to all my friends, all my colleagues who have been in this journey with me since 1997 and still continuing, and I would say, keep up the faith, keep the strength of mind, and continue to do. The world, the humanity will recognize and pay back in its own way. You are doing a great thing, a beautiful thing to make this planet livable for all of us in peace and harmony. And that is why I believe that this is the message I want to leave. And I know that when time comes, I will leave this world, but the message will continue to live through many people, and particularly through younger generations. I am very, very confident of that. So that is what our life is, and the culture of peace continues. As they say in Spanish, la lucha continua. The struggle continues, and so that is what we need to do. And there is no reason or justification for getting disheartened. No, we must keep our faith strong, and we should, because we mean well, we mean the good of the world, and that is what we are doing. And whether people join us or not, it will be seen in future. But we continue our work. Thank you to both of you, Tezikiah and Mr. Wick, wonderful partners and colleagues and friends. So I appreciate your role also.
Well, thank you so very much. And you've given us so many options about how we can embrace and embody the culture of peace and to support the continuation of the culture of peace. And
Yes.
I love that the modeling you provide us around that, to be bold in speaking your own truth, to stay positive. You are such an inspiration for all of us, as well as a key informant about how we continue this movement into the future. So we just appreciate you more than you could ever know, more than you could ever know.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
thank you. And I'll turn it over to my beloved colleague, David, for any final remarks, and then we'll close.
Thank you so much. Well, absolutely. It is wonderful to have your full perspective, your experience, which nobody else has, as you have, your deep insights. What also comes to mind is this not the culture of peace that the great spiritual teachers and masters have always talked about? The humanity and being loving to each other and the care all around is just like, yes. And it does continue. And we do hold, I think, do hold with patience and persistence to continue. So this is a wonderful time to be together, an important time in our world to hear this message, which we will bring out in different ways. So thank you so much, Ambassador Chowdhury. That blessing to us all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wick. Thank you. Thank you.
And to all of our listeners, regardless of what your background is, where you've been, please know that you are a pathway to peace. So thank you to all of you for being here. And we look forward to our next interview in this podcast series on the culture of peace. So thank you.
Thank you.